So first off, I'm always going to check my documents. I'm going to check the charting to see when the last time they've been suctioned, because I'm going to do a nasotracheal suction. So I'm going to wash my hands over here, and then I'm going to properly dry them, make sure my hands are really dry before I place on the gloving. So then I'm going to place on my gloves. And then I'm going to get my proper equipment ready. Make sure everything's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get my tray ready. And so I'm going to open up my tray and I'm going to prepare my gloving and everything. I have sterile gloves, so I'm going to leave it like that until I am ready to properly get it ready. All right, so then the next thing I'm going to do is get my vacuum machine ready here. So when I do this, I'll turn it on to regulate, and then I'm going to turn it down to 120. And then I will make sure my proper tubing is connected into disposal. And then I'm going to stretch out the tubing, make sure there's no kinks, nothing's going to get stuck in the tubing. Like that. And I will be ready to go. And then before I begin giving them the nasotracheal suction, I need to set them up with some oxygen. So I'm gonna get them on a non-rebreather, so I'd hook it up to machine. And I would take my mask out here. Have my mask ready to go. Tubing to make sure it stays connected. And I'll be ready to go. And then before I give them the mask, I would measure them with a trumpet if I have that available. So I have a trumpet here. This one is at 22. So I'm gonna take this trumpet here and I'm gonna measure it from the nostril down to the earlobe. And I can see if it will fit. And I can also tell if this is gonna go properly in by the bevel here to make sure it will fit into their nose and it's not gonna be too big or too small. And so then I would lubricate it to make sure it goes in with ease. It doesn't irritate the patient's nose. So I would slowly enter that into their nose with the bevel side towards the middle of their nose. And I'd push that down in there. And then when I'm getting ready, I'm gonna oxygenate the patient. And so I would hyperinflate them, their lungs. And so once I'm doing that, I can always pour in my sterile water into the tray here. And then I have my lubricant here. I can put that either on gauze or I can put it onto my lid right here. Just that way it keeps sterile. So when I'm ready, I can remove my gloving here. And then I will get ready to do my sterile gloving here. I don't want to try to touch anything with the sterile gloves. I want to make sure I keep them as sterile as I can, because we never want them to touch anything. This will not fit very well. The gloves are just a tad bit too small for my hands. And so then I make sure I don't touch anything and just try to get them on without touching anything. So you don't, then they will become not sterile if we don't get them on with the appropriate. All right. So once I have that on, I'm gonna go ahead and get my catheter ready to go. So I'm gonna connect it to here, and I can always check this before I put it on. And if you occlude the opening here, then you can watch it go up and see how high it goes up. So that one goes up to 152, around there. So then I'm gonna put this in like this, and you can start hearing that it's working, and you can go and include the hole and make sure you can hear that suctioning. And the first thing you wanna do before you insert it into the patient, you wanna take some sterile water and suck it up the tubing. That way it'll get the tubing ready, and it'll kind of lubricate the tubing inside. And then I'll take the end of my catheter and I will do it like in a circle motion around the end. That way it'll go into it easily. And then when I go to do this, I need to take off the mask after I had hyperflated their lungs. And so I would slowly insert the tube into the patient. And I'd slowly go down, and if I get stuck at a point, I can pull it back out a little bit and try it again. And when I get down, I can have the patient cough so that way I can get down into the proper area of the lungs. So then I'd go and I'd suction it out, and I don't want to do it more than 15 seconds. So then when I come out, I can slowly inch my way out. I can move my fingers along to move it so that way, like when it comes out, it won't splash on the patient. So if I need to do it again, if I notice that I didn't quite get all the secretions out, I can sterilize it again. I can put it in sterile water, and then I can go back into the patient while their lungs are still open. All right, so then once I'm done with the catheter, and I know I'm not going to be using it anymore, I could wrap it around this hand and remove it, and I can take my glove and pull it over top of it, and I can dispose of everything all at once. And then that way it won't contaminate anything. So I'd throw it away in the proper disposal, and then I would reassess the patient. So like I'd always get the breath sounds, anything beforehand, and then after also, just to make sure like I got some of the secretions out to help them breathe better. And every time after you're done doing their thing, you would always reoxygenate the patient and make sure they are better, or make sure everything is properly working, and make sure nothing got, make sure the lungs didn't get too much suctioning done, so make sure they're still clear, nothing's blocking the airway, everything like that. So once I'm done, I'll dispose of anything that I have used, and I can always have like if they need a sample, I can get the extra tubing to add to this to get a sample of any of the secretions that I have got for them. And when I'm done, I wash my hands, chart everything that I have done for the patient, and then